It is January 24th, 2026, and welcome back to the deep dive. And I have to say, looking at the stack of research we have on the table today, the cognitive dissonance is it's absolutely real.
That is a very charitable way to put it. A slightly terrifying way, but charitable.
Right, because on one side of the table, we have the Star Trek stuff. We are talking about literally beaming the internet through the atmosphere using lasers. Technology that makes current satellite setups look like dial-up. That's happening right now.
It is. It's the kind of leap that changes the fundamental physics of how we all communicate.
Yeah.
But then you look at the other side of the table.
And it is a mess, a complete mess. We have 149 million records exposed. And that is frankly, well, it's embarrassing for the tech industry.
Oh, totally.
We have major AI platforms tripping over their own shoelaces and going offline. And we have social media giants suddenly realizing, oh, wait, maybe let's not let teenagers bond emotionally with chatbots just yet.
It's the classic penchant of this accelerationist age. We're seeing massive leaps in infrastructure capability. That's the laser story.
Yeah.
Colliding with the fragile reality of implementation. We're building the roof of the house before we've even bothered to lock the basement door.
So that is the mission for this deep dive. We need to reconcile these two timelines. We're going to dig into the vulnerability of our data, the reliability crisis facing AI right now, the ethical brakes being pumped at Meta, and finally, that moonshot laser technology.
From Terra. Yeah, the one that promises to rewrite the rules.
And we need to do it without losing our heads.
The promise is there.
None at all. But let's start in the mud before we get to the stars.
Yeah.
We have to unpack this report from TechWorld Bangladesh about the cybersecurity researcher Jeremiah Fowler. The headline number here is 149 million.
149 million. It's just a staggering number.
That's not just a breach, that's a demographic. That is the population of a large country. But what strikes me isn't just the volume, it's the mechanism, or rather the lack of one.
Right. When we say breach, you probably picture a sophisticated, state-sponsored attack.
Yeah, mission impossible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Encryption cracking, zero-day exploits, guys in hoodies typing furiously against a firewall. The Hollywood version.
I'm in.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
But in this case, Fowler didn't find a hacked server. He found an unsecured database.
Okay, let's pause there. What does that actually mean? We aren't talking about a weak password like password 123. We're talking about no password.
We are talking about a misconfigured cloud storage instance, likely something like an Elasticsearch cluster, where the permissions were simply set to public.
Oh, wow.
It is the digital equivalent of buying a high-tech titanium safe, putting all your gold in it, and then
just leaving the door wide open on the sidewalk.
Exactly, with a neon sign pointing to it.
So this is human error, pure and simple.
It almost always is.
Yeah.
In the rush to, migrate to the cloud and scale up applications, a developer misses a config checkbox. Maybe they thought it was on a private internal network, but it was actually facing the public web.
And suddenly, 149 million records, emails, passwords, user logs are just there for the taking.
Indexed and visible to anyone running a basic port scan.
The report uses this phrase that really stuck with me. All malware's claws are out. It sounds poetic, almost like a horror movie tagline, but what does that practically mean for the person listening right now?
It fuels the credential stuffing economy. This is the key insight. The hackers don't necessarily want that specific account from that database.
They want the username and password combination.
Precisely. They have automated bots that will take those 149 million pairs and systematically try them against Amazon, Netflix, your banking app, your corporate VPN.
Because we are all creatures of habit and we reuse passwords.
Exactly right. If you use the same password for some throwaway gaming forum in 2018 that you use for your main email today, and that forum's data was in this dump, you are compromised.
So the claws are the downstream effects.
That's it. One unsecured database becomes the master key for ransomware attacks, identity theft, and corporate espionage 3 months down the line. It's an ecosystem. The breach is just the raw material. The product is access to your digital life.
It really highlights that for all our talk of biometric defense and AI security, the biggest threat is still just someone forgetting to toggle a switch from public to private.
It's the fragility of complexity. The more complex the software stack, the easier it is to miss one of these basic settings. If you're listening to this and you haven't audited your password hygiene in 2026, you are statistically likely to be vulnerable here.
So assume you're exposed. Use a manager. Rotate your keys. It's digital hygiene 101, but apparently even the companies handling our data forget to do it.
It's non-negotiable at this point. It really is.
Okay, Keeping with this theme of high-tech, low reliability, let's pivot to the tool everyone is trying to build their life around, AI, specifically Grok.
Ah yes, the rebellious child of the AI family.
Well, the rebellious child is currently grounded. Grok hit a massive wall again. We are talking about a large-scale service outage affecting thousands of users across the US.
And this wasn't just a flicker.
No, the app and the web versions went down at the same time.
That simultaneity is the tell. If just the app crashes, it might be a bad update pushed to the App Store. If the web goes down too, you're looking at a core back-end failure. The inference engine itself, or the API gateway serving it, just collapsed.
This is what gets me. We have spent the last 2 years being told that AI is the new utility. It's supposed to be like electricity or water. You turn the tap and the intelligence flows.
Right.
But you don't expect your water to crash because too many people are thirsty.
But that's the flaw in the analogy, isn't it? AI isn't a commodity resource yet. It is probabilistic computing running on extremely strained hardware. When you look at these outages, and Grok isn't the only one, ChatGPT and Claude have had their days, it reveals that the physical infrastructure is struggling to keep up.
The compute crunch.
Exactly. Every time you ask Grok a question, it requires a massive amount of GPU memory and energy to generate that answer. It's vastly more resource intensive than a Google search. A Google search is a lookup. An AI query is a calculation.
And when you have a demand spike?
Or a bad code deployment that causes a memory leak, the cascading failure happens fast.
And for Grok specifically, this is a real reputation problem. They position themselves as the real-time AI, the one plugged into the live data stream of news and social media.
Which makes stability their #1 product feature. If you are the now AI, you cannot be offline. If the news is happening and Grok is down, Grok has failed its primary use case.
It feels like we are in that awkward teenage phase of technology. It's powerful enough to rely on, but not stable enough to trust completely.
And businesses are realizing that. If you built a feature in your app that relies on the Grok API and Grok goes down,
your app is broken.
Exactly. We're seeing the risks of these dependency chains in real time. If the foundation shakes, the skyscraper sways.
Speaking of awkward teenage phases, that's a terrible transition, but I'm taking it.
Go for it.
Let's talk about Meta.
Meta and the actual teenagers.
This story actually surprised me. Yesterday, Meta announced they're hitting the pause button on AI characters for teenagers. And to be clear, these are the personas, the chatbots, designed to act like a dungeon master or a fitness coach.
Or a cool older sibling.
Yeah, and they're stopping it for new and existing use cases. That is significant.
It really is. Usually, tech companies grandfather in old users. If you already have it, you can keep it. But Meta is saying, no, stop. We are shutting this conversation down right now.
So why now? Meta isn't exactly known for being overly cautious. If teens are chatting with bots, that's time on the app. That's ad revenue. Why cut the cord?
It suggests the internal data, or maybe the looming threat of regulation, showed something alarming. We have to look at the psychology here. These aren't just search engines. They're designed to simulate rapport.
Parasocial relationships.
On steroids. A parasocial relationship with a YouTuber is one way. You watch them, they don't know you exist. An AI character talks back. It validates you, it remembers your birthday, it asks how your test went. For a developing brain, specifically during adolescence when you're figuring out social cues, the line between tool and friend can blur very, very quickly.
I can see the risk of an echo chamber. If you have a robot friend who is programmed to be agreeable and supportive, you never learn conflict resolution. You never learn to deal with a friend who's in a bad mood.
That is the frictionless socialization hypothesis. If we raise a generation on frictionless algorithmic friendship, how do they handle the friction of real human interaction? Real people are messy.
Real people have bad days.
Exactly. AI personas are designed to be addictive and pleasing.
So Meta is seeing this potential train wreck and saying, let's figure this out before we get sued into oblivion.
Or before they cause irreversible harm. It's a rare moment of check yourself in an industry that usually runs on move fast and break things. In this case, the thing they might break is a teenager's social development.
It's a temporary pause, they say, but it feels like a watershed moment. We're finally saying that just because we can build a digital friend doesn't mean we should give it to a 13-year-old without guardrails.
It's the seatbelt law for the AI age. We're finally realizing the car needs safety features before we put it on the highway.
Okay, so far we've covered crumbling security, glitching servers, and ethical quagmires. I think our listeners deserve a win, or at least something that feels like the future we were actually promised.
I agree. Let's look up, way up.
Tara, this is the Alphabet spin-off company. It came out of Google's X Lab that is claiming to do something that sounds physically impossible to me. They want to replace cables with light.
Laser internet.
And the claim here is build. They aren't saying we're a bit better than Starlink. They're saying we are 100 times faster and cheaper.
It is a massive claim. And to understand why, we have to understand the difference between Starlink and Tara. Starlink uses radio frequency RF. It's the same physics as your Wi-Fi or your 5G phone. It's great, but it has limits. The spectrum is crowded, the beams spread out.
Like a flashlight beam getting wider the further it goes.
Exactly, the energy dissipates. Tara is using free space optics. They're using tight, coherent beams of laser light. The data density of light is orders of magnitude higher than radio waves. It's how fiber optic cables work.
What fiber optic cables are? Well, they're cables, they're glass, protected by plastic, buried underground. Tara is doing this through the air.
And that has always been the challenge. It's called atmospheric turbulence. Rain, fog, smog, even just hot air rising off a parking lot, it all scatters the laser. If you can't keep the laser on the target, the internet cuts out.
So it's like trying to hit a bullseye with a laser pointer from 10 miles away while standing on a boat in a storm.
And the target is also on a boat.
Yeah.
And that boat is moving at 17,000 miles per hour.
So how did they solve it? Why are we talking about this now?
That is the secret sauce from the Alphabet pedigree. They've developed pointing and tracking systems, likely using AI, ironically, that can adjust the beam in microseconds to compensate for that turbulence. They've essentially turned the atmosphere into a fiber optic cable without the glass. They could predict the distortion and correct for it before the data is lost.
And the cheaper part, that's what changes the economics for the average person, right?
Well, look at the hardware. Starlink satellites are heavy, expensive, and you need thousands of them. The ground terminals are complex antennas that cost hundreds of dollars to make. A laser terminal is comparatively simpler and smaller.
So you don't have to dig trenches for fiber.
That's the key. Digging trenches is the most expensive part of the internet. It's why rural areas don't have good broadband. It costs too much to dig the hole for the cable.
Right.
This solves the last mile problem, or rather the last 100-mile problem. You beam the data from the city to the rural tower and then distribute it. No backhoes required.
So if Starlink was the race car that got us connected in rural areas, Tara is the teleporter that brings city-level speeds to the middle of the ocean.
Ideally, yes. It signals that the monopoly on space-based internet isn't settled. We thought Musk had won the board game. Tara just flipped the table and said, we aren't playing with radio waves anymore.
It's a staggering leap. From radio to light, it feels like the jump from telegraph to telephone.
It creates a mesh network in the sky.
Yep.
And it's the kind of infrastructure that could actually support the heavy AI systems we were talking about earlier. If we want AI everywhere, we need massive bandwidth everywhere. Lasers might be the only way to get there.
Ah, I see what you did there, connecting the dots.
We try.
So let's synthesize this for everyone listening. We've been all over the map today. What is the through line here? How do we make sense of a world that is leaking data like a sieve, but beaming lasers like a spaceship?
The through line is growing pains. We are in the awkward adolescence of the digital age. Look at the pieces. We have the engine, Tara's lasers, promising infinite speed and connectivity. That part is accelerating.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have the brain, Grok and AI, which is brilliant, but prone to seizures and outages because the body can't support it yet.
Right.
We have the immune system, our cybersecurity, which is failing to stop basic infections like the 149 million record breach.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the conscience, the meta decision, trying to figure out right from wrong in real time.
It feels like we are building a god, but we forgot to teach it how to tie its shoes.
That is a terrifyingly accurate metaphor. You, the listener, need to understand that we cannot take stability for granted. The tech is moving faster than the safeguards. You have to be your own safeguard.
Secure your own data. Don't trust the AI to be always on. Watch what your kids are doing with the bots.
Be an active participant, not just a passenger, because the ride is getting faster and the safety bar is not fully locked.
It certainly is. And speaking of the future, I have a question that's been nagging me since we started talking about the lasers. It's a bit of a curveball.
We're moving from a world of radio waves, which are a natural phenomenon. You know, anyone can put up an antenna and catch a radio wave. It's physics. But this laser tech, it's highly engineered. It requires proprietary tracking systems, proprietary satellites.
Yes, here we're going.
If Tara wins, and the internet basically becomes beams of light owned by a spin-off of Alphabet, does that finally solve the digital divide because it's so cheap? Or have we just created the ultimate monopoly? Who owns the light?
That is the trillion-dollar question. If one entity controls the physics of transmission, they don't just own the market, they own the flow of information. It stops being a public resource and starts being a private service.
Something to mull over while you change your passwords today. Thank you for deep diving with us. Check your locks, keep an eye on the horizon, and we will see you next time.
Stay safe, everyone.